as it relates to count two, or arguable question of fact, but I would still ask the count two to be dismissed as well. But certainly on count one, I don't think there was any evidence presented of the choking that's alleged in the charge.
Yes, Judge. Just generally, I believe your Honor cited the court rule, which I believe reflects that the motion should have been made before defense opened their proofs. They are now well into their proofs, depending on the stand. So if your Honor is entertaining, people will respond appropriately. I'm also correct. The standard of proof is like what's favorable to the non-moving party, which is the prosecution. Myself, it is my burden to prove the elements. As it relates to the first count of child abuse in the fourth degree, specifically the act that posed an unreasonable risk of harm, that being choking a child, we have evidence testified to that Dr. Pilgrim placed his hand around Isaiah Ashford's neck, and that I believe in Mr. Gersham's second statement, he wrote that he choked, which was cross-examined on. He pushed him down and he choked him. However, even further than that, even his initial testimony is that he grabbed him by his neck and pushed him into the chair, and then he let go. Isaiah responded that, I can't breathe, I can't breathe. That would reflect a choking or a restriction of airway, Your Honor. Evidence comes in multiple ways: direct evidence, circumstantial evidence. Circumstantial evidence being a placing of the grabbing of a child's neck with a hand so forceful that it causes the child to not be able to breathe and to further break the chair of which he is sitting on. I think that all is reflected by the word choke, Your Honor, in the most general sense of definition of the word. So we believe video was presented that we have at least established so far. So we ask that you deny the motion.
Counsel, it's your motion.
No rebuttal here.
All right, so the court is going to deny the motion for directed verdict on two grounds. One, that I believe the motion to be untimely, but two, had the motion even been timely, in viewing the evidence in the light most favorable to the non-moving party, the court would have still denied the motion for directed verdict, believing that the people have presented enough evidence on this record to, at this particular time, sustain its burden for the purposes of a directed verdict. So you may proceed.
Okay.
And sir, you are still under oath.
Thank you, Your Honor. May it please the court. Dr. Grisham, remember to keep your voice up. I'm sorry, Dr. Pilgrim. Dr. Pilgrim, keep your voice up. Okay, let's go back to.
What's my picture? Because I'm the only one on Zoom.
I'm on too, but.
Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry, I know.
It's okay.
You know, looking at yourself while you're trying to work is.
We love to look at it, Judge. I personally do. I can't speak for anybody else. But.
All right, go ahead.
Dr. Pilgrim. Did there come a time when I'm directing your attention still back to September 22nd, 2022. Did there come a time when you, Mr. Grisham, and Isaiah Ashford were in the auditorium?
Yes.
Did there come a time when you observed Mr. Ashford being placed into a chair?
Yes.
Who placed him in that chair?
Mr. Grisham.
Okay. Upon Mr. Ashford being placed in the chair, what, if any, action did Mr. Ashford take next?
He was threatening. He was using profanity. He was threatening to hurt and harm the other student, as well as threatening to do bodily harm to myself.
By he, I mean Mr. Ashford, remain in the chair while you were speaking to him?
No, I was trying to calm him down, but he stood up and he motioned to leave out the auditorium. So what I did was, I used the most reasonable amount of physical force I could, which was place my hand near his collarbone and his chest, and then I sat him back down in the chair.
Could you demonstrate where your hand was as relates on Mr. Ashford? Could you demonstrate that on me?
Yes, sir.
With the court's permission, may I approach?
So that he can demonstrate on you what he did to, okay, yes, you can.
Sir, imagine I am Mr. Ashford. Can you show the court where?
Counsel, are you able to see? Okay, so yes, I want you to come right now. Well, Mr. Pitts, I want you to go back, stand the way you were. Counsel, come over and stand in front of the bench here. Because I can see, okay, now you can see what he's doing, okay.
Could you place your hand on me in the way you had your hand on Mr. Ashford?
I had my hand open. I was right where his collarbone, in the middle of his chest, and I simply just pressed down, set him back to the seat.
Okay. Put your hand back there.
Mhm.
Okay. Where are your fingers?
Right by the collarbone.
Where is, I said, the fleshy part, where's sort of the palm of your hand?
It's in the middle of your chest.
Okay. And when you had your hands, did you have your hands on Mr. Ashford in a way that is similar to the way you had your hand on?
Yes.
When you had your hands on Mr. Ashford in this particular manner, what if anything did you do?
Well, as he was getting up, I just simply sat him back down in the chair. But what I did was, he was trying to get back up. Okay. And I was telling him basically, look, just sit down, calm down. So when he did that and eventually calmed down, that's when I removed my hand from his chest.
I'm satisfied.
Okay.
Yes. Your Honor, you can say that.
I apologize, yes, ma'am. Okay, you should be able to share it.
Yeah. Dr. Pilgrim, I want you to look at the screen. Do you see yourself in this video?
Yes.
Are you one of the two individuals in the white shirts?
Yes.
Is this you or is this you? Are you to the left? Or if we're looking at it from your position, are you to the right or to the left?
I am to the right.
Is this you right here?
Yes.
Who is this?
That's Mr. Grisham.
Who is this?
That's Mr. Isaiah Ashford.
Okay, can you play the video, please? And what are you doing at this point, if you remember?
Actually, Mr. Grisham was telling Isaiah to sit down, sit down because he didn't want to sit down. I was also telling Isaiah, just calm down, sit down, so I can talk to you and wanted to calm you down. That's why we brought you in here. Relax.
Can you play the video, please? Stop. So. Let's drive right there, please. I like to, when Mr. Ashford gets up. Stop right there. Okay. Very good, that's fine. That's fine. Do you see the video right now?
Yes.
Can you recall what was occurring during this moment? Can you tell us?
Well, at that moment and stuff, I was talking to Isaiah, telling him to sit down, he was cursing, using profanity at me, and he still wanted to go back and fight that kid. He was
What is he
talking
doing?
about- He's getting up and he's getting ready to head towards the other door, which is on the other side of the auditorium there.
So are you saying there's another door we can't see?
Yes,
Okay. Where does that door lead, if you know?
that door leads right back to the other students, and it also leads back to the playground where he got into a fight with the other kid.
What, if anything, did you do pursuant to seeing Isaiah head toward that door?
I tried to calm him down, but he wouldn't listen. So what I did was, I was just really concerned about the kids and stuff. I really wasn't worried about myself. But he did stand up in front of me and catch me off guard. So what I did was I basically just placed my hand, there's collar on his chest, and set him back down and stuff in the seat. I didn't want him to get out into the area where my babies were at. And I definitely didn't want him to go back and get into a fight with that other kid.
Did you hold him down for any period of time?
I held him down until he calmed down. That's what I was doing when I was leaning over. I was talking, I said, Isaiah, just calm down. So I'm gonna let you go. You calm down. But he was pushing back, trying to get back up.
Did it appear to you did it ever appear to you that Mr. Ashford did calm down?
That's when I
Did
stepped
it
back.
answer my question? Did it appear to you
Yeah.
at some point that he calmed down?
Yes,
Upon coming to that conclusion, what, if any, action did you take? What'd you do?
I basically removed my hand from his collar on the chest. I just stepped back and leaned against the stage. He was sitting there calm now.
Did you put your hands around Isaiah Ashford's neck?
Absolutely not. I would never choke a kid. That's not my character. I spent too much time trying to help out kids and stuff about my career. I would never hurt a kid. If I choked him, then he probably wouldn't be here now.
How tall are you?
6'3", 280 pounds.
Why did you feel the need at some point to lay your hand upon Mr. Ashford?
Yes.
Why did you feel that need? What occurred that made you feel that way?
Well, my job first is to protect the safety of the school, my staff and students. And at this particular time, he was definitely, it appeared that he was definitely gonna go ahead and hurt either my kids trying to get back to the other kid to get into a fight. So it's my job.
For speculation. Doesn't know what.
Well, tell me what it appeared to
It's the
you.
same.
Don't tell me what he was going to do. Tell me how it appeared, your perception of what was going on. Don't tell me.
It appeared that he was going to leave the auditorium, and it appeared that he was going to it appeared that he was going to get into a fight with the other kid, go back to return to fight that kid. My concern was not, my concern was that, but my concern was also him injuring the other kids that were out there in his movement to get to the other kids.
Would you agree that Isaiah Ashford is on about 5'9", 5'10"?
Yeah, he's a big boy.
Based upon your knowledge of the other students in your school in the 5th grade, was he average size, larger, smaller than the average 5th grade kid?
He was larger. He was a larger kid.
Given that size, did you perceive that Mr. Ashford could be a threat to these kids?
Doesn't relevance.
Well, it goes to why he took the action he took. Why he being Mr. Dr. Pilgrim.
I think this is proper character.
It goes to,
I think it's irrelevant as to the student's character. It's not on trial.
I know, but the question was,
go ahead, Judge.
hold on, read me the question back.
Given the size, did you perceive that Mr. Ashford could be a threat to these kids?
And your objection is relevant.
I think it's relevant and it's also probably a proper period of reference. And also maybe speculation about what the other kid perceived.
No, he said, did you perceive? So the question is, Did the defendant perceive the complaining witness to be a threat to the other students? That's your question?
Yes, and if I may, Your Honor, I don't want to interrupt, of course.
No, go
It,
ahead.
it certainly goes to why Dr. Pilgrim took the action he took, the basis upon which he took the action. And I'm arguing that given the size of this young man relative to other children at the school, that was one of the rationale for the reason Dr. Pilgrim felt it was necessary to take the action. So that's what I'm arguing. That's what I'm saying.
Objection sustained.
I have no further questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, hold on for a second.
Dr. Pilgrim, you said that you were the assistant principal at Castro Elementary School,
Yes, and the dean of culture,
the dean of,
climate and culture.
and in your role, you had a lot of interaction with students.
Yes,
You got to know students pretty closely.
yes,
And we also heard that before you worked at Castro Elementary School, you worked at least Inkster High School.
yes, I came from Thurgood Marshall.
Is that, where did you come from directly before Castro Elementary?
Yes,
Okay. And how long were you at Inkster High School?
3 or 4 years.
And that would have been back in 2010?
I think I started about 2009.
Where were you before Inkster High School?
Before Inkster High School. I believe I was at, let's see, Oak Park, I believe.
And how long
No,
were
it
you?
was, I think it was, yeah, Oak Park, yeah, it was Oak Park. Oak Park or Martin King.
I apologize, counsel. Can you stop sharing?
Oh, yes. And how long were you there for?
About 2 years. Which school are you asking about?
You said, so before Inkster, so let's just go backwards. You were at Pasture for how long?
Pastor, I was there for 2 years.
So in 2020, 2022, or 20, sorry, I don't even know what year it is, I'm sorry.
It's 24, but and counsel, for my sake,
Yes,
when you ask him how long was he at Pasture School, are you referring to from the date of this incident prior, or are you just saying in total? Because I don't know if he left after that or not. Can I get a
Yes.
context for your?
yes. So before this incident happened, how long have you been at Pasture Elementary for?
I had been there probably, I would say, a year and a half, and then I was put on leave for about the remainder of the year, about 6 months, about 4, 5, 6 months. Yeah.
Okay, so you went to Pasture Elementary around 2021?
About 20, I would say about 20, about 2021.
And where were you at immediately before that?
I was at Thurgood Marshall.
What city is that?
That's Detroit.
That's okay. And how long were you there for?
Thurgood Marshall, I was there for 3 years. Then before that, DSLA, so it wasn't Oak Park out of Oxford, it was DSLA, Detroit Service Learning Academy.
So you would have approximately started at third grade Marshall in around 2017.
That's correct. So,
And when did you start at DSLA?
Is there a relevance?
Council,
Yeah, I'm trying to establish a timeline as to where he's been and to the kind of training that he's received at those schools, and then,
I'll allow it, but I don't wanna go through this whole curriculum retime, if possible.
yes.
Okay,
I guess in total, how many schools do you think you've been at?
I've probably been in about probably about 6 or 7 different school districts. Yeah,
School districts?
correct.
Okay, so if they're schools within the city of Detroit, you consider the same district?
Yes.
Okay. Is there a reason that you've moved from so many school districts?
Well, because I'm a science teacher, I'm good at what I do, so sometimes the principal would take me with them when they leave and go to another school district. It's a promotion.
Do you ever have any disciplinary record at those schools?
No, not that I know of.
And your science teacher, did you teach science at Castro Elementary School also?
No, I was the assistant principal and the dean of culture.
Okay. Were you a prior correctional officer?
Yes,
When would that have
I began in 1990.
Same objection, relevance.
been? I think it goes.
overruled, I don't know.
Thank you.
1995.
Is that when you started or is that when you ended?
That's when I started,
Okay, and when did you end that?
about 2002, 2003.
And what's the reason you ended your career there?
I ended my career there because I received an OUIL.
And I guess I'm not, like, I think I know what acronym you're talking about, but I'm not entirely sure.
Are you asking him what the acronym means, or
Yeah, can you,
do you want me to take judicial notice of what the acronym means?
Judge, if you know, judicial notice is fine.
Okay, I mean, operating under the influence of liquor, correct?
I think it was an OWI.
So OWI, operating while intoxicated. OUIL is the old way we used to say, operating under the influence of liquor or unlawful blood alcohol level. Okay,
Not the correct, it's an OWI compared.
Okay.
well, I don't know, I'm just going, I'm not adding anything, the initials that he gave, so. OUIL is operating under the influence of liquor. OWI is operating while intoxicated, and OWVI is operating while visibly impaired. Okay, so,
I just wanted to make sure that we were all on the same page.
yes, okay.
Okay,
I think it was the visually impaired.
okay. Dr. Pilgrim, you stated that you were concerned for the safety of your students.
Yes,
Would you have considered Isaiah a student?
absolutely.
Were you concerned for his safety?
Yes,
And you also stated that you weren't really concerned for yourself.
well, I'm more concerned, I put my students first, okay? Then I put my staff, and then it comes with the job, I worry about myself afterwards, but it comes with the position that I work.
Right. So you said you weren't really concerned about your own personal safety at that point. Correct.
That is, well, I'm always concerned about my safety, but
Well, you,
Let him finish the question, please.
Objection.
Objection.
respectfully, I mean, it's a yes or no answer, and it's what he testified to on direct.
And,
Well, I'm.
I really enjoyed the both of you practicing, I really enjoyed it. And so, excuse, my smile right there. From Mr. Pitts, who, said about 5 times, it's a yes or no question, but it doesn't matter, it's what you object to that matters, and so, overruled.
Okay.
Overruled, I'll allow it, it's cross-examination, I'll allow it. But even in that, we do try to, allow people to finish the answer unless it's non-responsive, and on cross-examination, you can cut the witness off, you may proceed.
Thank you, Judge. You also stated you're about 260, 6'3", 6'2"?
6'3", about 280. I
Okay.
picked up some weight.
And that, I think, was testified in the video, that Isaiah was probably around 5'9", 5'10",
That's what I understand. That's what I heard during this trial. Yes,
and he was probably around 130, 140 pounds.
that's what was mentioned. I don't know how much he weighs actually.
Okay. He's substantially smaller than you, correct?
Yes, I would say so.
And did you write a statement for this case, or not for this case, but in relation to this case?
Yes, I did.
And that would have been dated back in November 17th of 2022?
That's correct.
And are you familiar with the statement that you wrote?
Yes, I do. So
You say, we testified that you simply sat him back down in the chair, him being Isaiah. That's what you testified to today?
yes,
In that he, when asked about what action he took after he was sat down in the chair, he stated that he tried to leave the auditorium.
yes,
So he didn't get up from his chair fast and rush you?
well, it probably should say rush out of the auditorium, okay, or rush towards the door, but he did stand up in front of me, and that's what it appeared to be to me.
So did he rush you or did he not rush you?
Oh, he stood up and went towards the other door, but things happened so fast and stuff, it appeared to me that he stood up in front of me, looked like he was coming towards me. So at the time when I wrote the statement, that's what it was. But it's evident, you see from the video, that he was trying to leave out of the auditorium.
Okay. So when you perceived at that time that he rushed you, your response was to what's reflected on the video, correct?
My response was to set him back down in his auditorium in the chair, yes.
So did you set him back down or did you push him back down?
I set him back down by using a pushing motion. I sat him back in his chair.
And would it be fair to say that you contained on the video that Isaiah didn't do anything physically besides stand up and turn? Would that be fair to say?
Repeat that question again.
Would it be fair to say that when you're in the auditorium, Isaiah did not do anything physically except stand up and turn?
No, what he did was he stood up and was getting ready to leave out of the auditorium. That in itself, considering the fact that he had been threatening to kill the other students, as well as had been in a prior fight, that was the reason that I placed my hand on his collarbone and chest and sat him back in the chair, not only for the safety of the other students, but also for the safety of myself and the student that we had got into a fight with. That's the reason that I made physical contact with. If you were to listen.
Respectfully, that wasn't my question, but thank you.
You're welcome.
Fair to say that you oversaw this investigation into this incident regarding you and Isaiah Ashford.
That is incorrect.
It's incorrect that you did you have Mr. Grisham write a statement about the incident and hand it in to you?
Yes, my principal told me to collect statements about 3 months after the incident happened. And I did just that. As soon as he gave me the statement, I gave it directly to the principal. I had no idea what the investigation was about because my principal didn't tell me. I just simply did what she instructed me to do. So I didn't oversee the investigation. I simply collected the statements and returned them to the principal.
So, fair, you personally asked Mr. Grisham to write a statement?
I asked him, I heard my principal to write, I instructed him he had to write a statement. The principal wanted a statement from him. So when he wrote the statement, he turned it into me and I gave it to the principal.
Right. You asked him to write it and he gave it to you, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. And I think we talked a little bit about what happened before you guys went into the auditorium. Well, you came in through the door after you observed things happening at the auditorium?
What do you mean, I came in?
You entered the door after Mr. Grisham was already handling the situation.
Objection, form of the question, is there a question, objection to form?
I just asked the question, said, did you come in the auditorium, you came in the auditorium after Mr. Grisham was already handling the situation?
All right, can you repeat your question?
Did you come into the auditorium after Mr. Grisham was already handling the situation?
I came into the, yes, I came into the auditorium. Well, I came into the auditorium while he was struggling with him to put him in the auditorium chair, yes.
And you felt the need to insert yourself into this situation?
No, I was already inserted into the situation when I became aware that he had got into a fight with the other student. Because I'm the one that handles the disciplinary actions at the school.
Okay, so your intention was to go and find them wherever they were in the school?
No, I didn't have to find them.
You might not. Your intention, when you found out there was a fight, your intention was to go and see what was going on?
I didn't have to go and see what's going on because Mr. Grisham had got Isaiah off of the playground and he had been walking through the hallway. So by the time I actually saw what's happening, they were already by the main office and the main entrance.
Okay, so you didn't have to go into the auditorium, did you?
Yes, because I'm the assistant principal and the dean of culture. I'm the administrator and in charge of the school. And I have one of my staff members physically handling another student. So yes, I have to be present.
Would it be fair to say that you used a lot of force when pushing Isaiah into the chair in the auditorium?
Yes,
So much force that the chair actually broke?
the chair never broke.
Okay, so let's look at the video. And thank you. I'm gonna direct your attention to one of your first.
Look,
It's not gonna. All right.
I understand, counsel.
Thank
And
you.
so even, look, maybe Officer Krabs can point. No,
I think I
we're
might be
trying
able to do
point.
it. You can do it. All right, so
You got it.
Dr. Pilgrim, do you see these chairs right here in a line?
Yes,
And this is the front row of the auditorium?
yes,
And I believe it's gonna be either this chair or this chair that Isaiah is sat down into.
correct,
And you see that they're all lined up right there
correct,
in a perfect line?
yes.
Okay. For the record, that's people exhibit 1 at the 6-second mark. Jump ahead to the 13-second mark. I know it's a little hard to see, but you can see where this chair, you see how this chair is now
substantially further back into that second row?
That's correct, yes.
Okay.
Council.
Yes.
Well, I was talking to Ms. Ripley, I'm sorry. That's like saying, when I say daughter or son in a crowded room. Is it possible to remove these squares?
I wish it was, Judge.
Oh, it's not possible to remove the little squares from around the people?
I thought we started out with them.
I thought we did too.
It's a motion sense, so it senses people, so
Oh,
that's why.
okay.
So yeah, it would start off with some people.
Oh. Oh, okay, all right.
And I want to go back to.
Tell us who we get a difference. Oh, they y'all need it. Don't worry.
And
Okay.
looking at the 17-second mark. Fair to say that you're kind of standing back by the stage
Yes,
and Isaiah's sitting in this chair right here
that's
in the
correct.
middle of the screen. And it'd be fair to say that that seat chair is no longer lined up. In fact, it's more so in the second row still.
Yes,
And then just for my benefit, council, you're saying even if we play this video, like without stopping, those squares are gonna appear once the people get in there? Okay.
And at the 31-second mark,
You still see this chair right here Isaiah's sitting in?
yes,
And he's a little bit leaned forward and you're standing right in front of him.
yes.
And that chair is still in that second row.
Good.
Good. Okay.
Dr. Pilkin, have you ever physically restrained a student before?
Yes, I have.
And did you receive any training or education about physically restraining students?
No, I haven't.
Okay, you never went to that or had any non-violent crisis intervention training?
No, I've never had it before.
And it's your testimony that you never placed your hands around Isaiah's neck?
That is correct. I would never choke a kid.
Okay, well. Is it not true that Isaiah said that he couldn't breathe?
Wait.
That's not what I said.
Objection, hey, form of the question, I can start there.
Okay.
Objection form.
Overruled. It's cross-examination. She said, is it not true that Isaiah said he couldn't breathe? It's a proper question.
No, that's not what he said.
And you said that the door that we can't see, that would be on the other side, you said leads to a variety of other places, one being outside?
It leads to an area where the kids gather to line up for lunch, and then there's a door that leads outside that leads to there's another entrance towards the playground. You gotta go to the parking lot in the playground. Yes.
And be fair to say that you don't know what's going on in Isaiah's head.
No, I know that it appeared to me that he was upset and that he wanted to go back and fight the other kid, and that he was threatening to do harm and to possibly kill the kid, as well as make threats about killing me.
So he's saying all of these things. Yeah,
Yes.
okay. But when he stands up to walk away, you don't know what his thought process is, do you? You're not in his brain, are you?
No, my concern is not what's in his brain. My concern is the safety of the students and the kids that he will be going out if he gets in
So-
that door.
Respectfully, you're saying will. So that's something that you don't know, you can't know. Correct.
That's correct. I apologize saying will, but I didn't want him to leave the auditorium and possibly injure some other students as well as the student he was that got into a fight with.
And Isaiah calms down eventually, doesn't he?
Actually, during that time when he's sitting there like that, he's not kind, he's rocking and stuff, and he's cursing. He never said anything about he couldn't breathe. He was still sitting there rocking, talking about I'm gonna get my dad to come up here, et cetera. You know, just still making threats and stuff. So I was telling him to sit back and relax and just calm down.
So yes, that's what I asked, is that he did calm down eventually.
He calmed
correct?
down after I sat him down and I moved my hand, his chest and collarbone.
Nothing further, Judge.
Hey, please, court.
Yes.
Dr. Pilgrim, can you read Isaiah, November 22nd, 2022, could you read Isaiah's mind?
No,
Could stop your screen share. Unless you need it.
Oh, no, I never. On September 22nd, 2022, day and time in question, could you read Isaiah Ashford's mind?
no,
When you were in the auditorium, could you observe his actions?
yes,
Could you hear what he was saying?
yes,
Based upon his actions and what he said, did you take action?
yes,
Was that action predicated on any kind of mind reading?
no, it's predicated on our policy that I can use reasonable force, physical force, if I'm trying to protect the other students, the safety of the school, as well as school property and myself. Yes,
Is that what you were doing when you restrained Isaiah Ashford?
absolutely, absolutely. I don't want him to get hurt. I don't want the other students to get hurt. I definitely don't want my babies out there to get hurt.
Were you fearful for your babies?
Absolutely. Have you ever dealt with the kindergarten through second grade parent? And then you don't do anything, that's worse than doing something. So, no, I don't want to deal with that smoke, so to speak, from the parents. So I did what was necessary, using minimum force to make sure that he didn't leave that auditorium, that we can calm him down so he can get back to his studies.
What kind of force did you use?
Reasonable physical force, minimum force necessary to control the situation.
Nothing further, Doctor.
I have a question. Are you testifying in response to Ms. Rick's question? She asked you if you were in charge of the investigation, and then you said that the principal directed you to collect statements. Do you recall that testimony? Okay.
Yes.
And in fact, you also said that the principal directed you to collect statements and you didn't know what the investigation was about. Do you remember saying that?
Yes.
Okay. So when you directed or asked, because I don't know you all's correct terminology as an assistant principal, whether you directed or asked, when you requested that Mr. Grisham give you a statement, what did you say to him?
I walked up to him, I said, hey, the principal wants a statement from you. Mr. Grisham asked, what's it about? I said, evidently the incident that happened in the auditorium, and that was it. I gave a statement and walked away.
So you did know that it was about the incident in the auditorium, and you said you don't know what it was about. but-
No, the principal told me.
Hold on,
Yes,
I'm
sorry, go ahead.
you said, so my question is, what did you tell Mr. Grisham to get him to write a statement? And now you're saying that you told him it's about the incident in the auditorium. So at the time that you asked him for the statement, were you aware that it was about the incident in the auditorium?
That's all I know is just the incident in the auditorium.
Right.
That's all she told me.
And what's your principal's name?
Her name is, Michelle Hall, Principal Hall.
Hall?
Yes, ma'am.
And Principal Hall asked you to get a statement about a complaint against you?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. That's all the question I have. Any question based on my question?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay.
At the time you were instructed by Principal Hall, okay, did you know, at the time you were instructed by Principal Hall to gather these statements, did you know that you were the target of an investigation?
No, I didn't. I just did what she's asked.
Okay, were you aware that the investigation was regarding what occurred in the auditorium?
I just knew that it had to deal with the incident auditorium. I could assume it was, that I may have been involved, Mr. Grisham and Isaiah, but I don't know specifically what it was about.
Were you ever told that you were the target of the investigation?
No,
Were you ever told that Mr. Grisham was the target of the investigation?
no,
Because both of you had your hands at some point on Isaiah Ashford, correct? In the auditorium.
correct.
So when you asked him, when Mr. Grisham decided to write a statement, you didn't know who was the target, correct?
That's correct. I just did what my principal asked.
Okay, you didn't tell Mr. Grisham that, hey, I'm the target of this investigation, did you?
No, no,
You didn't tell him to look out for it, did you?
absolutely not.
Nothing further, thank you.
Any questions based on my question? Okay, all right, thank you. You may step down. Anything further on behalf of the defense?
Your Honor, we rest.
All right, any rebuttal on?
Oh, you know
behalf-
what, I can do this.
I'm sorry.
Stand up, please. And, Dr. Grisham. Okay. Dr. Pilgrim, do you object to us waiving not calling David Lewis? Do you object to us not calling?
No.
Okay, so you don't mind if we waive his testimony?
No.
Other than that, nothing further, thank you.
All right, the defense rest.
Yes.
Okay. Any rebuttal on behalf of the people?
No rebuttal, Your Honor.
Okay, then, is it,
30-second bathroom break.
let's take longer than 30 seconds, because they say you're supposed, I'm getting ready to say something, so let's just, let's just take 5 minutes.
Okay.
Break.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Yes, you may. Yeah, no, I was great. They ready for you. Don't tell me to do my schedule. No, we're not doing no schedule. Is the trial going? Okay, what do you want? Oh, who's going to trial? No, they don't need to turn on the schedule.
Okay.
They just need to come on tomorrow. We're not, if the trial is going, the trial is going. I'll determine how to juggle two things at one time.
what you saw in that video was Isaiah Ashford being brought into the auditorium by Mr. Grisham, being placed into the seats, Dr. Pilgrim coming in, inserting himself into the situation where he believes that he's necessary, needs to be, getting in a child's face. And when that child merely stands up and turns, he is grabbed forcefully, and I believe it's reflected in the video and by testimony, by the neck, slammed into an auditorium chair with so much force that that chair breaks and is held there. You can see it on the video for some period of time, at least a few seconds. We then have Dr. Pilgrim stepping back. We see Isaiah sitting in the chair, leaning forward. We have Dr. Pilgrim again, leaning forward, getting in his face, pointing his finger at him. They're yelling, they're screaming at each other. We know that because of testimony. We don't have it on the video because there's no audio. What we have is a very hectic situation that was escalated by Dr. Pilgrim reacting to Isaiah merely standing up. And his reaction is what the problem is here, Your Honor. Unreasonable use of force. It's unreasonable. Put your hand on a child's neck, shove them down so hard on an auditorium chair that it breaks. The video speaks for itself. We have a battery, a forceful or a violent or offensive touching, that being the defendant, Dr. Pilgrim's hand on Isaiah's neck. It's not accidental. He intentionally put his hand there. And it was against Isaiah Ashford's will. We also know that he intended to touch and forcefully, people would argue, choke and place his hand around Isaiah Ashford's neck by the manner in which he did it. We look at all the surrounding circumstances. We have him coming in, inserting himself in the situation. We already know that Isaiah is angry, or he's making threats, or he's talking about other students. But he's doing just that. It's only verbal, Your Honor. There was nothing physical by Isaiah that happened in that auditorium. Who decided to escalate it? Dr. Pilgrim. When Isaiah stood up, he was then forcefully grabbed and slammed back down. For child abuse in the 4th degree. Dr. Pilgrim is the assistant principal at that school. You know that he had care, custody, control, authority over Isaiah when he's in that school building. We talk about knowingly or intentionally committing an act under the circumstances that pose an unreasonable risk of harm or injury to that child. Unreasonable is the emphasis here. We know that he intentionally put his hand around Isaiah's neck. He'll argue that it wasn't around his neck, it was just around his throat. But Isaiah says, I can't breathe, I can't breathe. We don't need actual injury for that. And we know that Isaiah was under the age of 18. When we talk about a reasonable force, minimum force necessary to accomplish whatever is what the defense has testified about, which sounds very legal to me. We also had testimony that states placing your hand on a child's neck would not be a proper way to physically restrain a child. Dr. Grisham testified about that, and so did Mr. Rosser. That would be an improper way to physically restrain a child. You don't place your hand around a child's neck. But that's what we have here. That's what we have on video. Your Honor, I think that when we look at even Dr. Pilgrim's statement in his own, if he wants to say in his written statement that Isaiah rushed him, but he wasn't concerned for his own physical safety here. He said that. He's 283, 6'3". He said that on direct testimony, almost in a laughing kind of manner. He's not worried about himself. But then when I asked him, he wants to take it back. Well, you know, other people he's concerned with first, but then himself. But if he wasn't so concerned about his own physical safety, why would he write that Isaiah rushed him? I think it's very clear from the video that Isaiah did no such thing. He's so concerned for the students, but Isaiah is one of his own students that he's taking by the neck and slamming into a chair. Now, maybe this isn't an everyday thing for Dr. Pilgrim. I'm not saying that it is. But what I'm saying is what happened in this moment was a serious lapse of judgment. It's on video, and I think that's, you know, something that was reflected. I think things were heated. I think it's clear on the video that they were both angry, or at least that Dr. Pilgrim was angry, and that we know, you see that on the video, leaning forward and yelling. We also have testimony that, you know, Isaiah had just gotten in a fight. But he did not do anything physical. To say that you simply sat him back down in a chair, quote from the defendant, Dr. Pilgrim, is just disregarding facts that are shown on video. He's not simply sat down back in a chair. He was shoved into that chair, breaking that chair. We talked about Mr. Grisham, who had to write a statement about what happened, the incident in the auditorium, that both of them know about. But Dr. Pilgrim says he doesn't know that he wasn't target, doesn't know anything about it. But he knows when he says incident of it in the auditorium, had to be something regarding him. But yet he went himself to get a statement from Mr. Grisham. Mr. Grisham had to turn it back into him. I think there's a lot that happened, Your Honor. But I think the facts are pretty clear. I think the evidence speaks for itself. I think that the people have met their burden beyond a reasonable doubt for all of the elements of both crimes. And I would ask that you find the defendant guilty as charged. Anything else for about?
One thing before you sit down, and I apologize because I normally wouldn't speak at this time, but I realize that this is not this particular charge isn't a charge that I try regularly. And if it was before the jury, I would have had the jury instruction with respect to the child abuse charge.
Yes.
Can I see what the jury instruction says for the child abuse charge? I'm very familiar with assault battery. Is it anything, and is it much different from what's charged in the complaint? And I apologize because I'm just not as familiar with specifics of the people's burden.
I'd like to reference the jury instruction as well.
Yes, okay, so I just, and I have a set of jury instructions, but they're so old, and the ones that I print off the computer.
I have a copy on, I know it's the other one.
I'm old, I can't see it.
It's the one that I.
Okay. And you're okay with me seeing this? You saw what she just handed to me, this?
Yes, but when I close, I would like to reference back to it.
Okay, so you want this back?
Yes, please.
Okay, let me just read it then. Well, look at that, make me a copy. All right, and then give it back. I just need to know the exact elements, but thank you.
One of those lips for one, and the other one.
Wherever you feel comfortable.
This was me. Okay.
Okay, may it please the court. Your Honor, this is, our report indicated that she didn't try that many cases like this. Well, I gotta say, neither do I. It's a new one. And, it's interesting. In this society that we live in, we claim, I think genuinely to want good schools, and claim that we want safe schools. But we prosecute the very people who are there to keep the school safe. I think the evidence has shown that Mr. Ashford created a dangerous situation. We know from Mr. Grisham that he had punched a young man in the face on the playground and was continuing to threaten that young man to hurt him further. So much so that Mr. Grisham had to separate Isaiah Ashford from the rest of the kids and pulled him to a place away from him, that place being the auditorium. The operative verb I used was to pull. Now, it's very interesting. When Sister Counsel spoke, she said, well, you know, Mr. Grisham walked Isaiah in there. I mean, walked in the most euphemistic of terms, The video shows that Mr. Grisham, who we saw when he stood up and testified, is no small man. This man is well over 6 feet tall and has had his arms wrapped around Mr. Ashford and is pulling him into the auditorium. What does that tell us? That Mr. Ashford still had a level of aggression and physical force that he was employing against Mr. Grisham to get back to do what? Do more harm. The video shows, and I think, and I blame Sister Counsel, she tried to soft sell it. Mr. Grisham is the one who is physically grabbing and pulling this young man. Why? Out of his own words, because that young man poses a threat to the other student, and to the other student who was involved in the fight, possibly other students. Mr. Grisham testified to this. So it's interesting that when Sister Counsel says, well, Dr. Pilgrim just inserted himself, that's his job to insert himself. If he did insert himself, he'd be under some kind of educational malpractice. It's his job to come there as the what? The person in charge of discipline, to see what's going on with an aggravated, angry, assaulted, violent student who is what? Not complying with the instructors, with Mr. Grisham's commands. I'm sure Mr. Grisham did not want to have to physically pull this young man, and the video is clear. He is pulling that young man in there from the time they enter the doorway until the time he sets him down in that chair. Anyone who can see the video can plainly determine that Isaiah Ashford has no intention of complying with the directives of the adults in that room to stay still, to calm down, and for the purpose of what? Not for the ego of Mr. Grisham, not for the ego of Mr. Dr. Pilgrim, but to keep students safe. We say we want safe schools. It takes people to keep the schools, to keep the school safe in order to achieve the goal of safe schools. Mr. Grisham sets him in a chair. He doesn't sit on his own. Mr. Grisham has his hands or arms around him until Mr. Ashford, is put in that chair. That tells you the mindset, the behavior of the complaining witness, who didn't even bother to show it there.
I don't think you can infer anything from that.
He's not here, and it's closing argument.
It's closing argument, and it's not a true trial, so.
Well, that's,
Yeah, I mean, I'm just
The
saying,
child's not his choice, so.
Be that as it may, what happens after Mr. Ashford is sat down in the chair? We see from the video, Dr. Pilgrim does not immediately put his hands on him. Dr. Pilgrim is counseling, talking to him, trying to calm him down. What does Isaiah Ashford do? He doesn't just, as Sister Counsel says, stands up and makes a turn. He stands up, turns, and is heading toward the door. Common sense, reason, and logic tells you what he's doing. He's not out there doing a ballet pirouette. He's moving toward what? The door. The door leads where? Back to the other children. And Sister Counsel says, well, he inserted himself. It's his job. You heard Dr. Pilgrim say he is in charge of discipline. It is his job to protect that school, along with all of the teachers, but in particular position which he holds. And what does he do? He puts his hands on the young man and pushes him down. Now, honest minds can disagree as to where exactly the hand was placed, because no one knows better than him because he was there. By him, I mean Dr. Pilgrim. Dr. Pilgrim says, I didn't choke the young man. I didn't put my hands around his neck. Why would I do that? He spent, common sense, he did 20 years protecting children, 20 years helping children. He's dedicated his life to helping children, and now he's going to choke one? It makes no sense. Defies logic and reason. Why does he hold? For the record, why does Dr. Pilgrim hold Isaiah Ashford down there for 3 to 4 seconds? I think that was the testimony. Dr. Pilgrim's what the video shows, it's what Mr. Grisham said. Because the boy won't calm down. The job of Dr. Pilgrim is to protect the students from, in this particular instance, the violent actions and behavior of another student. And that other student is Isaiah Ashford. And if there's any question, and Sister Counsel said, well, you can't read his mind. You don't have to read his mind. You can look at his behavior on screen, and you can look at the behavior of those around him, starting with Mr. Grisham. Starting with Mr. Grisham. Mr. Grisham is the one who's wrestling and grabbing him. Why? Because it's what was necessary to protect the students. Why is Dr. Pilgrim taking a secondary action after Mr. Ashford was told, calm down? You don't think that's what Mr. Grisham was saying? Calm down. He doesn't want to listen. He's headed toward the door. If he walks out the door, then he's here either a civil claim or a criminal claim. You didn't do anything. So he took action. Now you critique the action that he took to keep the school safe. There's that line in A Few Good Men. You live under the protection under which I provide, but you challenge the way in which I provide it. There's that line in A Few Good Men that's famous where I think Jack Nicholson's on the wall and he says, you live under the protection that I provide, but yet here you have me here challenging the method in which I provide it. I'm not in that school. Sister Counsel's not in that school. None of us are in this school. This is a man who's dedicated his life to children. He's been in the educational space for over 20 years. Now he's choking kids. It defies logic, reason, common sense, and the video and the behavior of Mr. Ashford. Let's go through the timeline, Your Honor, if I may. This happened in September of 2022.
Not now.
Okay.
I'm gonna call.
Okay.
Yes.
This happened in September, this incident, September 22nd, 2022. In November of 2022, Isaiah Ashford is where? In the office of Latrina Perkins, Ms. Perkins. And he's there, and that's the office of in-school suspension. Isaiah Ashford's trouble again, fighting again. Common sense suggests that he's a person who is known to be violent and aggressive toward others. This is
I'm
what,
allowed to object during closing because that's improper character evidence. He's not on trial. The character of the victim is not relevant.
Isaiah Ashford is in trouble again, and that's why he's in the suspension office. That's a testimony. And Ms. Perkins indicates, well, I'm gonna have you go see the person in charge of discipline. You don't wanna go see him? Why doesn't he wanna go see him? Because this is a serious man who's serious about keeping the school safe. So what does he do? He says, oh, I'm scared of him and he did this and he did that. And it came out on direct examination. I don't even think I had to cross on this. It came out that Isaiah Ashford had told his mother prior to November when the statements. Told him he'd been choked, told him he'd been assaulted, like he'd be Mr. Ashford. So I asked Ms. Perkins, Ms. Perkins, you first learned of this incident this day from Isaiah. Yes. You didn't learn of it from the parent? No. You didn't learn of it from the police? No. Common sense and reason suggest what parent is going to learn that their child was choked and not be at that school the next day? What parent is going to learn that their child was strangled, hand around the neck, and not be at that school the next day? He didn't tell his parents any of this because the common sense and reason, and it doesn't matter what, I guess my parents would do, or your parents, or anybody's parents, but common sense says if a parent finds out that a child has had a grown man's throat around his or her neck, they're going to be there the next day, they're going to be at the police station that night. Nobody has alerted the police. Nobody has alerted the school system because it didn't happen. Isaiah just doesn't want to be around the few people who will actually discipline him. If the parents knew, common sense and reason suggest they would have gone to the police or they would have been at the school. At least the parents I grew up with would have, put your hands on my child. And we're going to do nothing about it. And how do we know that they were aware? Because Ms. Perkins said Isaiah told them. Isaiah didn't tell them anything because it never happened. At least it didn't happen the way he's describing it. He's embellishing because he doesn't want to be disciplined. What did and this is argument, what did Dr. Pilgrim say about that school? There's 60-some faculty members there, the 5 men. We talk about the plight of young Black men in the city of Detroit, in the state of Michigan, in the country of the United States. We talk about the lack of male role models. And here's a male role model who's dedicated his life. He's the only one, I think he's the only administrator. Common sense or reason could suggest maybe Mr. Ashford thinks he can get away with something with somebody else. But this man, he knows will stand up for the school. By this man, I mean Dr. Pilgrim. And actually, by standing up for the school, he's standing up for Isaiah Ashford as well. I'm protecting you from yourself and the other students from you. That's what's going on. That's what's happening. It makes no sense if he really told it that if this happened, he wouldn't tell his parents. And if he told his parents, let's follow that through to its logical conclusion, it makes no sense that the parents wouldn't call the police, the parents wouldn't be up there the next day. There's no explanation for that, but it didn't happen. Grisham gives a statement in November after Dr. Pilgrim is instructed to go collect statements. Mr. Grisham indicates, I don't have anything in my statement made, shortly after it comes to the school's attention about choking, about hands around the neck, nothing. It's 6 months later after there's an investigation going where somebody says, you got to change your story. Let me suggest that's what the evidence suggests. You got to get a story that's in line with what this young man is saying, because common sense, at this point, the school is out to protect itself from lawsuits, from civil litigation. So this man who's dedicated his life to children is now the sacrificial lamb. Let me suggest, ladies and gentlemen, let me suggest this our report. Have it, Judge.
I know.
That it just doesn't add up. Not this man's reputation, which was brought into play, not the chronology of events which was brought into play. We talk about, Sister Counsel talks about custody and care. Well, yes, he's got custody and care. And when he applies the care that is commensurate with, that is necessary to have custody of these children, they prosecute him for it. Something's wrong here. You can look from the video and see that when, and it's a question of fact, where did he have his hand? Did he have his hand around the neck? Did he have it right below the neck? But Mr. Grisham is actually, if you look at the video, he's behind Dr. Pilgrim, kind of behind and off the side. So maybe he honestly believes that happened. But the man who, the only two people would know where his hand was placed. Dr. Pilgrim, was his hand, and Isaiah Ashford, to whom the hand was placed upon his part of the body. The neck and the collarbone are centimeters apart. But believe me, common sense said, had he choked that boy, somebody would have told somebody, because he sure didn't have a problem telling Miss Perkins when he didn't want to be disciplined again. There are 5 men in a building of 64 people. 5 men. We decry the fact that Black men are not involved in the education, the growth, the nurturing of young Black boys. And here we have one, and they're trying to drive them out of the system. And that's what they're trying to do. This is a travesty. This is a farce. Let me humbly suggest to you, there's something rotten here. There's something wrong there. There's something inappropriate and punitive about what's going on. People changing their stories. Mr. Grisham's got to come up with some reason why he changed his story. This is classic defense of others. There's a jury instruction that talks about non-deadly force used in defense of others. One thing about self-defense and defense of others, you have to view the situation as it appeared to whom? The defendant. Not what I say, not what Sister Counsel says. How did the circumstances appear to the defendant as it was happening? And I think I can just read it to you. It's like paragraph 2. Remember to judge the defendant's conduct according to how the circumstances appeared to him at the time he acted.
You read the self-defense?
Yeah. It's,
I have it.
okay. It's paragraph 2. How did it appear? Self-defense, defensive, but how did it appear to Dr. Pilgrim? Well, it appeared to Dr. Pilgrim the same way it appeared to Mr. Grisham. That Mr. Ashford required physical constraint to protect the safety of at least one other child. I agree with Sister Counsel when she says, oh, look at the video. The video speaks for itself. It sure does. You got a young man who is not cooperative with one adult. When he comes in to the auditorium and is sat down, and now there are 2 adults, he's cooperative with me. Because what? He wants to go fight and continue his violent behavior. This man had, like you said, he's got care and custody of not just Isaiah Ashford, he's got care and custody of all those kids. And he has an obligation to protect all of these children. That's all he's trying to do. And he's here because he did his job. And they don't like how he did it. The evidence shows that they have not proven beyond a reasonable doubt that the behavior in this particular circumstance created an unnecessary risk of harm or injury to the child. I mean, there's nothing that shows that. What's shown is that you have a Black man trying to protect Black kids. And that's what it is. You have a man who is Black men in education is like finding a unicorn, unfortunately. You're hard pressed to find one. He's dedicated his life to something. He's not getting rich doing this, a noble call. And they're trying to drive by day. I mean, the people who brought these charges, whoever's behind this, the ultimate goal is to drive him out of his, what I consider almost to be, not what I consider, what common sense would suggest is almost a godly calling to care for the children in our community. And that's what he's doing. So let me humbly suggest that the force used, and there's no denying that there was force, that the force used was reasonable relative to the situation. Now, sister counsel might get up there and say, well, the chair was broken. First of all, there's no testimony that the chair was broken. There's no evidence that the chair was broken. There's evidence from the video that the chair was pushed back. And if it was broken, they didn't bring any repair slips. And even if the chair was broken, this is a huge man. Relative to the force, a man who will be playing starting for the Detroit Lions right now, relative to the force he's capable of using, and that's not really the standard. This is a strong man trying to quickly, impulsively move and react to grab a young man and sit him down for his protection of others. But child abuse? Whether or not it's reasonable has to be judged through how the circumstances appear to him. And the minute we heard that Dr. Pilgrim was sufficiently satisfied that Isaiah Ashford had calmed down, released his hands from his chest and collarbone, and kept talking. That's what it took. He's in that environment, not us. He's living with those students. It's his job to protect, his obligation to protect. And let me suggest to this honorable court that that's exactly what he did. And having him here and alleging that the protection that he provided was unreasonable from somebody who's from this source is totally inappropriate, unsupported by the evidence. I believe sister counsel will probably say, well, he grabbed him by the neck. That's not the testimony from Dr. Pilgrim. Because we're really just talking about a matter of, I don't even know if it's inches, centimeters between the collarbone. When you're pushing somebody down, the collarbone is right, the collarbone sort of gives, I'm not a super Mr. Anatomy, the collarbone sort of gives way to the neck. He pushes him down for the purpose of protecting the students. Let me humbly suggest to you the question whether or not the actions posed an unreasonable risk of harm or injury. Let me suggest they did not. And how do we know they did not? Because if the young man was really harmed or injured, he'd have let somebody know. Because he certainly didn't mind letting the faculty know that he didn't want to go back to Dr. Pilgrim. So he comes up with a reason why. Why didn't he tell his mother? Oh, he did tell his mother. So his mother didn't come in? Who believes that? It makes no sense. The position that they are taking is contrary to logic, reason, common sense. The behavior of Dr. Pilgrim was classic defense of others. And let me humbly suggest the only verdict that this court, when taking a look at the evidence that's been presented, is not guilty on count 1, child abuse 4th degree, not guilty on count 2, it's all matter. With that, I sit.
Any opposed?
Yes.
Sorry. Judge, a lot's been said. A lot's been seen. What we're looking at here, it's not an easy determination. We have a video. It's not the whole story, but it's a large part of it. We know what happened before. Fights. What it comes down to is that Dr. Pilgrim is still not allowed to use unreasonable physical force. And that's what we have here. He lost control of his emotions. You can see it from the video. Got in Isaiah Ashford's face, grabbed him and slammed him into the chair. Unreasonable physical force is what we're looking at here. Defense argues that Dr. Pilgrim is the person in charge of discipline. What he's there for, he should know better then. He should know better than to put his hand around the student's neck and slam them into a chair. As the person in charge of discipline, he's trying to protect other students, but who didn't he protect that day? Isaiah Ashford. How about state schools? I don't think anybody disagrees with that we want safe schools. We want our students to be safe, we want the faculty to be safe. They also need to be safe, not only students from each other, but students from faculty. They're not allowed to, they're not allowed to snap. They're not allowed to lose control of their emotions and physically assault students. They are not allowed to do that. There are things they're allowed to do that are within the law, that are reasonable. And that's not what we have here, Your Honor. We don't have him, grabbing Isaiah's arm and sitting him back down. No, we have him grabbing his neck and forcing him down into the chair. Two completely different things. One, I would argue, would probably be reasonable. The other is what you have here. And that's the reason why we have these charges, Your Honor. It's got nothing to do with race. It's got nothing, the insinuation that I've got something to do here. I don't appreciate any of that. Because that's not what this is about. It's about the facts. It's about the video. It's about the testimony, Your Honor. Defense also argued that who knows where his hand was? Question of fact that he submits. Who would know better than Dr. Pilgrim himself? Well, I would submit to you, Your Honor, that Dr. Pilgrim is the one on trial here. He's got everything to lose here. So of course he's going to say, well, I just put my hand on his chest, on his collarbone right here. Of course he is. We're not in that school, that's true. We don't know what they deal with every day, but who was? Who did we have testify here? We had Mr. Bertram, we had Ms. Perkins. We heard from those who were there. Judge, what Isaiah's parents did or didn't do is not of relevance. We're not them. We can't judge the parents. We're all gonna do things differently. But that's of no fault to the child. The child who is the victim here. And the argument that essentially that Dr. Pilgrim is a large man, so he's allowed to use more force than a smaller man, that doesn't make it reasonable. He's a large man. He should know how much force he can use and not use. He should be aware of that more than anyone. Just because he's a large man doesn't mean that he can grab a student by the neck and slam him into a chair. That does not mean that at all. Exactly. He's a large man. He needs to be aware of what he's doing. He's not allowed to grab a student by the neck and slam him into a chair. Neither would a small man. Quite frankly, if it caused the same damage and did the same thing, the same actions by a large or a small man doesn't matter. What I'm trying to say is the size doesn't matter. And we do have testimony that the chair was broken. Mr. Grisham testified that the chair was, that they allowed it, we know this was broken, so. don't need repair slips, we don't need any of that, you can see it in the video also. Your Honor, what this comes down to is reasonable or unreasonable. People's position is this is unreasonable. I'm not saying that you can't discipline children. That's not my argument. Let's be very clear about that. But the law is very clear about what can and can't be done for discipline. I think that's the issue. You may discipline children. But it does not mean that any amount of force may be used. It still must be a reasonable force. What's unreasonable? Grabbing a child by the neck and slamming them into a chair. Dr. Pilgrim lost control of his emotions. And that's what we have here today. That's what we have on video. For those reasons, Your Honor, we ask that you find the defendant guilty as charged. Thank you.
Okay. It's 3:21. And I have an appointment at 4:30, which means I have to leave at 4 o'clock. Now that, not to say that I wouldn't have my decision at 4 o'clock, but if I don't, I guess you would have waited for, just to be waiting. So my question is, do you all want, I'm going to watch the video. Again, I can tell you that if you're not able to send it to me, I'm gonna just, once I stop the live stream, I can go back and review it on the live stream. So, I want to see the video again. So if you want to wait and see if I come to my conclusion by 4 o'clock, you can, or we can, just go ahead and break and let me ponder at at my leisure today. And then we can you can come back tomorrow, either in person or on Zoom, since it's just for my decision. I kind of prefer in person, but tomorrow, look, I already told you now, tomorrow I have another trial and an exam. But we had also blocked on Friday, kind of, sort of. So if you wanna, you can zoom in. Tomorrow is kind of gonna be difficult for me, but you can zoom in tomorrow or come in person. First of all, let me know your preference with respect to my decision. In person, I see that there are people here, they may wanna come in person, I don't know. But we can do tomorrow or Friday. What do you want?
Just, can I call my office real quickly? I might have
Yes.
something scheduled for Friday, but even if I do, it's not gonna take me that long. I just don't want to say I can be here and
Mhm.
post in 2 places.
And then do you prefer in person?
If it's Friday, it would just depend. I have cases across the street.
Okay.
I have no preference, Your Honor. Zoom is fine,
Okay,
no preference.
I have no objection to whatever's easier for.
all right. Well, check your schedules, cause, and then we'll see. Well, let me see if my doc is for tomorrow. Anyway.
Can we do Friday, either Zoom or live Friday morning? Hang on.
Friday, when you say Friday morning, what do you mean? by that?
Anytime before, I just gotta be in Oakland County at noon, so
Council,
anytime.
what's your schedule Friday?
The only time constraint I have is I have a free trial at 10 a.m. across the street.
Okay, so, usually my docket consists of
Like I have something in the morning.
preliminary stuff in the morning in terms of the other dockets. So if you all zoomed in right at 8:30, I could do it at 8:30, 8:45.
On Friday,
Um,
I mean, the only thing one of the judges that I have in the morning is at 8:30.
who else is an 8:30 judge besides me?
Judge Bazzi. Oh, and I guess Judge King. I don't usually see there too.
I'm just saying, look, I know I'm not. the
I mean,
only one
I.
That started 8:30. So council, between 8:30 and you said you have to be in Oakland County by 12:30?
Yeah.
So between 8:30 and 12, what's the best time for you on Friday?
After the 10. If I have something at 10, we could do probably 10
10:30?
anytime before,
before this.
before 11:30 when I gotta head out.
Right, so, okay, so do we wanna do 10:30 on Friday, which I already had you down for anyway, because for some reason I put the trial on 3 days. So we can do Friday at 10:30. And then, I don't think I'll have any problem seeing the video once I play back the,
You just, give an email address and somebody email.
email it to me because I don't wanna have to keep trying to find it on
What's your email?
live stream. Hold on, let me block this out, cause, oh, I can